Okay guys, so in this lesson we're going to be talking about solving one-step and two-step linear equations. So what that means is basically you want to get the x by itself or solve for x in a linear equation. What a linear equation is basically has one single variable. Typically we like to use x as the variable in the equation. So we'll do a couple examples. Again, the whole point of this is to get the x by itself. And for that, we have to move everything to one side of the equal sign and then get the x by itself on the other side. Typically, what I like to show people, the method of doing is to draw a wall. Basically, vertical line going down the equal sign to distinguish the left side from the right side. So the whole point of this, if we do example 1, is to get the x by itself. That means that I want to move the 5 to the other side to get the x by itself. I can't just move it. I have to cancel it out. So basically, if this is a positive 5 on the left-hand side, I want to do the opposite, which is the inverse of positive 5, which is negative 5. That way, this guy would cancel out, and it would turn to 0 and go away. And if we drop down the x, well, guess what? The x is by itself, which is what we want. The only thing about this is that we can't just do that. We can't just subtract 5 out of nowhere, unless we keep the equation balanced and do that to the other side as well. So that is how you subtract. That is how you solve a linear equation. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side equally, so we can keep the equation balanced. So that means that if we subtract 5 here, we subtract 5 here, we get the final answer, which is x equals 12. Okay, so let's try to do the same exact thing for the other problems. So example number 2. Wait a minute, they're trying to trick me. These are actually like terms. Stop moving. Don't try to move stuff around first. Try to see if you can get it a little bit more simple, and then you can start moving stuff around. So this is actually the same thing as saying w plus 7 is equal to 7, which looks a little bit more simple than it was originally. So w plus 7 equals 7. Cool. After we combine like terms. Draw the vertical wall. Again, I want to cancel that out, so it's going to be a minus 7, so it can go away. We have to do that to both sides, so keep the equation balanced. So whatever we do here, which is negative 7, we have to do it here. This cancels out, which means it goes away. We get w left over on the left equals 7 minus 7. That actually cancels out. What that means is that it turns into a number which is equal to the value of 0. So yes, 0 is a possibility. So don't freak out if you get something like that. Final example of one-step equations, example number 3. We have this situation. So we have w minus 8, and then we have a plus minus 4. Again, we talked about this earlier in one of the videos. Plus negative, the negative is always going to win. So this actually becomes w minus 8 minus 4. Again, because the positive and the negative next to each other becomes a negative. So we just have to combine like terms at this point. Negative 8, if we combine that with negative 4, that gives me a negative 12. So we get w minus 12 is equal to, oh, I forgot about this whole side. There's a whole world on the other side too. So we get w minus 12 equals 12. Okay, so if we want to solve for w, we use the same method that we did last time. So do the vertical wall. We do plus 12 on both sides, plus 12, plus 12. Again, notice that this time I put a plus 12 because I want to cancel it out. So it's always going to be the opposite sign. So in this case, the negative 12 and the positive 12 go away. We get the final answer, which is w equals 12 plus 12, give me a total of 24. So w equals 24 in the last situation. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. We can also have two-step linear equations. Two-step linear equations are kind of very similar to one-step linear equations. The only difference is that we actually have a variable in the front of the x, or whatever variable they're talking about. So when we have a variable in the front, we have to get rid of it, and that method is usually division. Whenever you have something like this, like 3x, negative 4x, 10x, yada, 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 this means 3 multiplied by x. This means negative 4 multiplied by x, this means 10 multiplied by x. So we have to keep that in mind. So we're going to use the same method, try to solve it, right? So we do the vertical wall for example number 4. I want to get rid of the 5 and move it to the other side to get the x by itself. So we always like to start with the variable that's furthest away from the x. So we're not going to do anything to the 3, no, because that's next to the x. We want to do stuff with the stuff that's furthest away from the x first and move that first, and then worry about the rest of the stuff later. So we do minus 5 on this side and minus 5 on this side to keep the equation balanced. The positive 5 and the negative 5 go away. We get 3x left over, just drop that down, is equal to negative 1 minus 5. Oh, these two are negative, so we just add them up, and then the answer is going to be negative 6. Now we have to get rid of the 3. Well, here's the part about the 3 and the x being multiplied. To do the inverse operation of multiplication, we have to divide. So to get rid of that 3, we have to divide this side by 3 to cancel it out. And that looks like this. So dividing by 3, putting it into a fraction, the 3 and 3 go away. We are left with just x. Let me make my wall a little bigger. So x is equal to, again, we can't just divide this side and not this side, so we have to do the same thing with the negative 6. So divide this side by 3. Negative 6 divided by 3. So 3 times 2 would give me 6, so the answer is going to be a negative 2 because there was a negative in front of the 6. Okay, so there you go. So we could actually solve equations with numbers in front of the x as well. Let's do this example. Example number 5. So draw the wall. I want to get rid of the 12 first because that's furthest away from the x. So I'm going to do a minus 12 so it can cancel. Negative 12, positive 12, that goes away. But I have to do it to the other side first. Or also, I should say. So negative 12, we get negative 4x that drops down is equal to 0 minus 12, which gives me just negative 12. And then we're almost done. But again, I want to get rid of that negative 4. I would not add it because, again, this is not x minus 4. This is negative 4 multiplied by x. So to cancel that out, I have to divide it by negative 4. So whenever you have a x and a variable or coefficient, attached to a variable, we have to divide those two numbers to cancel. Negative 4 and negative 4 cancel. Again, notice that I included the negatives, so the negatives can cancel as well. I would do that to this side also. So negative 12 divided by negative 4, that gives me a positive, because negative divided by a negative would give me a positive. The negatives cancel, and that is a positive 3. Example number 6. Again, they're trying to get us with this math stuff. Don't start moving stuff around right now because the problem can get a little easier and you want it to get easier. So 10x plus 50, this negative and negative next to each other becomes a positive. So that's a positive 10 equals 20. Now, I circled the 50 green because I could actually combine like terms with this 10 right here because neither of them have coefficients. Neither of them have variables. So we get 10x plus 60 is equal to 20. So this problem looks a lot simpler than what we had in the beginning. So if you can simplify it and get it down to something a little bit easier, you should make your life a little bit easier so you don't have to waste so much time. So finally, move everything to one side except for the x. So we're going to start with the 60 because that's furthest away. So minus 60 on both sides, minus 60, minus 60. We get 10x on the left side. On the right side, we're going to get 20 minus 60. That's two different signs, so be careful with that. That's going to be subtraction, so it's going to be 40. And the biggest number is going to be 60, so we keep the sign of the bigger number, which is negative 40 overall. Okay, last step, we divide by 10 on both sides. Divide by 10, divide by 10 to get rid of that 10 in the front. And then we get x is equal to negative 40 divided by 10, which is negative 4. So final answer is x equals negative 4. I hope this helped. Good luck.